The universe blinked. Across the vast expanse of space, somewhere in the uncharted reaches of the Andromeda Tau corridor, a wormhole pulsed erratically, spewing out bursts of light and gravitational ripples that distorted everything around it. This was no ordinary wormhole, it was wild, untamed, and lethal. Anything attempting passage was shredded into quantum confetti. Inside the command deck of the Aetherion, a sleek, silver-hulled exploration ship, Captain Elara Voss leaned forward, her eyes glued to the holographic display. The wormhole loomed large on the screen, its violent energy rippling like a storm-tossed sea. Beside her, a voice broke the tense silence. "Another probe lost," muttered Dr. Cale Moretti, the ship's lead physicist. His fingers danced over his console, pulling up diagnostic data. "Whatever's on the other side of this thing doesn't want us coming through." Elara's jaw tightened. "Or it's protecting something." Cale glanced up, his brow furrowing. "You think this is deliberate?" "Deliberate or not," Elara said, "the Galactic Council didn't send us halfway across the galaxy to turn back at the first sign of trouble. They said the artifact is out there, and I intend to find it." Cale's skepticism deepened. "If the Celestial Lotus even exists," he muttered under his breath. Elara ignored him. The Celestial Lotus. The mythical artifact described in fragmented ancient star maps and whispers passed down by long-extinct civilizations. It was said to resemble a flower of pure light, its petals spinning in perfect harmony, stabilizing spacetime itself. If the legends were true, it was the key to safe interstellar travel through wormholes, a tool that could make the most hostile regions of the galaxy navigable. And now, the unstable wormhole in front of them seemed to be the last marker on a trail that had already claimed countless lives. "Prepare the next probe," Elara ordered, stepping away from the command chair. Cale hesitated. "Captain, we've already lost 3. This wormhole's gravimetric fluctuations are off the charts. Even if we survive transit, what if there's nothing on the other side?" Elara fixed him with a steely gaze. "Then we bring back data and prove the Council wrong. But if the Lotus is there, we could change the future of humanity." Cale sighed, returning to his console. "Your optimism will be the death of us, you know." The probe launched with a faint hum, a tiny streak of silver plunging toward the chaotic maw of the wormhole. Seconds stretched into eternity as the Aetherion's crew watched the telemetry feed. "Telemetry stable," Cale reported, his voice tense. "It's holding weight." His tone shifted, laced with alarm. "Something's interfering with the signal." The feed cut to static. Cale slammed his fist on the console in frustration. Before anyone could speak, the wormhole began to change. The violent ripples smoothed into a hypnotic spiral, a pattern that pulsed like the petals of a blooming flower. For a moment, the entire ship fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the faint hum of the ship's systems. "What the hell?" Elara whispered, stepping closer to the viewing panel. Then came the signal, a faint, melodic tone that resonated through the ship's comms, as if some ancient being were singing across the void. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Cale worked furiously to isolate the frequency. "It's not interference," he said, his voice trembling. "It's a message. Or a beacon." Elara's heart pounded. "Can you translate it?" "Give me a second." Cale's fingers moved like lightning. The tones shifted, forming patterns, and finally, a garbled string of words emerged. "Seek the light that blooms within. Beware the shadowed petals." "What does that even mean?" one of the crew muttered. Elara didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the wormhole, now eerily calm. Deep within its heart, she thought she saw something, a faint, radiant glow, like the first light of a distant sun. "Cale, prepare the ship for transit," she said, her voice steady but electric with determination. Cale spun around, wide-eyed. "You can't be serious. That thing has killed every ship that's tried. And we'll be next if we sit here arguing. Whatever's on the other side is calling us." Cale opened his mouth to protest, but another tone, louder, more urgent, reverberated through the ship. It was as if the wormhole was inviting them in. Or warning them away. "Prepare for transit," Elara repeated. "That's an order." As the Aetherion edged toward the now glowing wormhole, the entire ship seemed to hum with anticipation. The crew braced themselves, tension thick in the air. Elara placed a hand on the console, her gaze locked on the luminous spiral ahead. And as the ship crossed the event horizon, the universe blinked again. The Aetherion jolted violently as it breached the wormhole's edge, the entire vessel creaking under the strain. A kaleidoscope of colors and light swirled around the ship, bending and twisting in ways that defied logic. For a moment, Elara couldn't tell if they were moving forward or standing still. Time itself felt distorted, structural integrity holding, Cale shouted, gripping the edges of his console. But we're skating the edge of collapse. Elara kept her eyes forward, her knuckles white as she gripped her station. Stay focused. What's on the other side? Cale's instruments were a mess, the data streams flickering erratically. It's impossible. There's a massive energy field ahead, but it's stabilizing spacetime somehow. It's like... A sudden lurch silenced him. The ship burst out of the wormhole and into a stillness so profound it was almost jarring. The stars here were distant pinpricks, their light muted, as though the region itself was cloaked in a dark veil. And there it was. Suspended in the void, at the center of a vast cosmic expanse, was the Celestial Lotus. The artifact wasn't just a flower-shaped relic, it was a living, pulsating marvel of energy and light. Each petal was a massive, translucent structure, rotating in perfect synchronization. The petals shimmered with a prismatic glow, their edges flickering with what looked like fragments of starlight. At its center burned a core of pure, golden energy, emitting waves that resonated deep in the bones of anyone who beheld it. By the stars, Cale breathed. It's real. Elara could only nod, her throat dry. They had spent months chasing myths, risking their lives and careers, and now here it was undeniable proof of the ancient artifact's existence. But there was something unsettling about it, too. The Lotus didn't just radiate power. It felt aware, like it was watching them. Scan it, Elara ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. Cale's fingers flew over his console. Energy output is off the charts. It's producing a stabilizing field that's literally holding the fabric of space-time together in this region. This thing is why the wormhole works at all. But why here? Why now? Elara murmured. Her question hung unanswered in the air. Before Cale could respond, a sharp alarm cut through the moment. Incoming object detected, shouted Lieutenant Aaron from the navigation station. Something's closing in fast. The main display flickered to show a shape emerging from the dark void, a sleek, black vessel with jagged edges that glinted ominously in the faint light. It was nothing like any ship they'd encountered before, its movements unnervingly smooth, like a predator stalking its prey. Unknown ship on an intercept course. Aaron barked. They're not broadcasting any ID, no comms. Shields up, Elara snapped. And keep us between them and the Lotus. As the black vessel closed the distance, a beam of pale light shot from its hull, grazing the Aetherion. The ship shuddered violently, and systems began flickering. They're scanning us. Cale yelled, frantically working to stabilize the power grid. But it's not just passive, they're trying to override our systems. Elara's mind raced. Whoever they were, they clearly knew about the Lotus and didn't want company. Weapons online. If they make another move, fire a warning shot. The alien ship didn't wait for an invitation. A second beam fired, this one striking the Aetherion's shields directly. The ship groaned under the impact, sparks flying from overloaded circuits. Fire! Elara commanded. The Aetherian's plasma cannons roared to life, sending a volley of concentrated energy toward the attacker. The shot struck true, but the black vessel barely flinched, its shields absorbing the impact like ripples on water. They're too advanced, Cale muttered, his face pale. We can't fight them head-on. Elara's jaw tightened. We don't have to win. We just need to buy time. As if in response to her resolve, the Lotus began to change. Its petals shifted, rotating faster, and the golden core flared brighter. A new wave of energy rippled outward, washing over the Aetherion and its assailant. The alien ship faltered, its movements stuttering as if the energy had disrupted its systems. Cale's console lit up with frantic warnings. The Lotus, it's interacting with us. Or them. Or both. Elara's heart pounded. What's it doing? I don't know. Cale exclaimed. But whatever it is, it's... Before he could finish, the Aetherion was engulfed in a surge of golden light. Elara's vision blurred, her surroundings fading into a sea of brightness. She felt weightless, her body caught in the flow of something far beyond human comprehension. And then, as suddenly as it began, the light faded. When Elara opened her eyes, she found herself standing not on the command deck of her ship, but on a vast, endless plain of shimmering white. In the distance, the Celestial Lotus floated serenely, its petals now still, as though waiting. Elara Voss, a voice echoed, soft but resonant, as if the universe itself were speaking. You have come seeking the light. Elara turned, but there was no one there. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Yes, she said, her voice steady despite the surreal situation. Who or what are you? The voice paused as though considering. We are the caretakers of the balance. The Lotus is not merely a tool, it is a test. You stand at the threshold of great power. But not all who come here are worthy. A chill ran down Elara's spine. And if I fail? The lotus pulsed, its golden core flaring slightly. Then the shadow shall bloom. The cryptic response offered no comfort. Elara's fists clenched. Somewhere, she knew her crew was counting on her. Somewhere, that alien ship was likely still a threat. And here she was, standing at the mercy of a force far beyond her understanding. What must I do? She asked, her voice firm. The light around her dimmed, and the petals of the lotus began to unfold further, revealing a path of pure light leading toward its glowing heart. Step forward, Seeker, the voice said, and prove your worth. Elara's boots touched the path of light, and the moment they did, the ground beneath her shifted. The shimmering white plain dissolved into a new environment. She was now standing in what appeared to be an ancient temple, its walls carved with intricate patterns resembling constellations and strange glyphs. The ceiling stretched high above, disappearing into a void of twinkling stars. Captain Voss, can you hear me? Kale's voice crackled faintly in her ear, distorted but unmistakable. It was a comforting reminder that she wasn't completely severed from her ship. I'm here, Kale, she said, her voice low. I don't know where exactly here is, but the Lotus is testing me. Testing you? Kale echoed, his voice laced with worry. We're still locked in a standoff with that alien ship, and the Lotus is emitting some kind of energy field that's keeping them at bay. Whatever it's doing to you, we don't have long. Elara looked ahead. The path of light wove deeper into the temple, leading toward a central chamber that pulsed faintly with golden light. The voice from before returned, resonating all around her. Each step forward unravels the truth of who you are, Elara Voss. Strength alone will not guide you. Knowledge and sacrifice must shape your path. The walls of the temple shifted as the voice spoke, transforming into translucent surfaces. They revealed glimpses of moments from her past. Her first command, her decision to leave her family to pursue a life among the stars, the sacrifices she made to climb the ranks of the galactic fleet. The memories flickered, raw and unfiltered, as though the temple itself was peeling back the layers of her soul. These are just memories, she said aloud, as much to herself as to the voice. What are you trying to show me? The voice was silent. Instead, the floor beneath her trembled, and from the shadows ahead, figures began to materialize. They were faint at first, like smoke, but quickly solidified into humanoid forms cloaked in dark, shifting robes. Their faces were obscured, but their presence radiated menace. Beware the shadowed petals, Kale had said. The warning now felt ominously real. One of the figures stepped forward, a curved blade of pure black appearing in its hand. Do you truly think yourself worthy of the light? It hissed, its voice sharp and otherworldly. Your kind seeks power, not balance. You will bring ruin. Elara's pulse quickened, but she held her ground. I seek understanding, she said firmly. The Lotus is not a weapon. It's a bridge to stabilize the chaos of the galaxy. We're not here to exploit it. The figure laughed, a sound like splintering glass. Words are wind. Prove your resolve. The blade-wielding figure lunged. Elara barely had time to react, instinct driving her as she dodged to the side. Her hand reached for a weapon that wasn't there. She was unarmed, stripped of everything but her wits. She scrambled back as the other figures closed in, their movements synchronized, their intentions clear. They weren't here to test her patience, they were here to destroy her. Suddenly, the floor beneath her erupted with a burst of golden light, sending the shadowed figures recoiling. A new object appeared before her, a staff, intricately carved with glowing runes that pulsed in time with the Lotus's core. Elara, the voice said again, calm but insistent. Only the light can banish the shadow. Take it. She didn't hesitate. Grabbing the staff, she felt a surge of energy course through her body, warm and electric, like she'd tapped into the very fabric of the universe. The figures hesitated, their forms flickering as the light from the staff grew brighter. You want a test? She growled, stepping forward. Here it is. She slammed the base of the staff against the floor. A shockwave of light radiated outward, shattering the shadowed figures into fragments of darkness that dissolved into the air. The temple returned to stillness, the golden path reappearing. Breathing heavily, Elara straightened. If this is your idea of a test, she said aloud, you'd better hope I don't fail. The voice returned, softer now, almost approving. You have faced the shadow and emerged stronger. But light and shadow are but one layer of the whole. Continue, Seeker. The path ahead grew brighter, and Elara began walking again. The temple shifted with every step, the walls transforming into scenes of galaxies in formation, stars exploding into supernovas, and civilizations rising and falling in an instant. It was as though the Lotus was showing her the universe's life cycle, a reminder of its vast power. "Kale," she said, her voice steady despite the awe she felt. "Are you still with me?" "Just barely," Kale replied. "That alien ship hasn't moved, but its energy readings are spiking. Whatever's happening to you, it's making them nervous." "Good," Elara said. "Let them sweat." She reached the final chamber, a circular room with no visible walls, only a boundless expanse of stars. The Lotus hovered at the center, its petals now motionless but glowing with an intensity that made it hard to look at directly. Beneath it, a pedestal of crystalline light rose, etched with the same glyphs she'd seen earlier. "Seeker," the voice said, resonating from the Lotus itself. "You have proven your resolve, but the path forward requires more than strength or understanding. To unlock the Lotus's true power, one must give of themselves." Elara approached the pedestal. "What do you mean?" "Every bridge requires a foundation," the voice replied. "The Lotus can stabilize the chaos, but only through the anchor of a willing soul. It must be bound to you and you to it. Once done, your fate will be tied to the fabric of the cosmos." Her breath caught. The implications were staggering. To control the Lotus, she would have to give up everything: her freedom, her future, her very essence. But the alternative was unthinkable. The unstable wormholes, the chaos, the threat of the alien ship, all of it could tear the galaxy apart. "Captain," Kale's voice broke through the silence. "Whatever you're doing, do it fast. That alien ship is moving toward the Lotus." Elara looked up at the Lotus, its golden core pulsing faster now, as if urging her on. She placed her hand on the pedestal, the crystalline surface warm beneath her palm. "I'll do it," she said, her voice unwavering. "For the galaxy. For humanity. For everyone." The Lotus flared brighter than ever, engulfing her in its light. The alien ship's warning alarms grew faint, drowned out by the roar of energy as the Lotus began its transformation. And then the universe cracked open. Elara felt herself dissolve into light, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of energy coursing through her. She could feel the Lotus binding itself to her, its essence merging with hers, threading her consciousness into the very fabric of space-time. It was both excruciating and euphoric, a sensation beyond mortal comprehension. Her mind expanded outward. She saw the Aetherion, its crew frozen in shock as the ship was bathed in a golden aura. She saw the alien vessel, its sleek design bristling with weaponry as it accelerated toward the Lotus. And then she saw beyond, stars burning in distant galaxies, wormholes spinning like wheels of fire, and threads of light connecting every point in existence. "Elara," the voice of the Lotus spoke now from within her. It was no longer distant but part of her own thoughts. "You are the anchor. The bridge is open." As the last word resonated, her body reformed within the glowing chamber, but she was no longer the same. Her eyes burned with golden light, her veins coursing with the energy of the Lotus itself. She was the stabilizer now, the living key to unlocking its power. The alien ship fired. A concentrated beam of energy, sharp as a spear of darkness, hurtled toward the Lotus. But before it could strike, Elara raised a hand instinctively. A shimmering barrier of golden energy rippled into existence, deflecting the attack. The alien ship paused as if recalculating before unleashing a barrage of weapons fire. Elara's voice echoed across the chamber, calm yet filled with authority. "Enough!" The Lotus responded to her command. Its petals began to spin again, faster and faster, creating a vortex of light that expanded outward. The alien ship shuddered as its systems flickered, the pilot clearly struggling to maintain control. "Kale," Elara said, her voice now reverberating through the ship's comms. "I've stabilized the Lotus. But the alien ship isn't going to back down." Kale's voice came through, breathless with both relief and awe. "Captain, is that really you?" "It's me," she said, though she wasn't entirely sure anymore. "And I'm ending this." The Lotus pulsed once, a deliberate warning shot of energy that struck the alien ship's hull. Its shields buckled, and for the first time, the vessel retreated slightly, its aggressive posture faltering. Elara focused, feeling the Lotus's immense power coursing through her. "You came here to claim this artifact," she said, her voice echoing across the void, amplified by the Lotus itself. "But you underestimated its purpose. This isn't a weapon. It's a guardian." The alien ship hesitated, and for a moment, Elara thought they might respond. But then its weapons charged again, a desperate attempt to overpower her. Elara sighed, her resolve hardening. "So be it." With a thought, she channeled the Lotus's energy, creating a vortex of pure light around the alien ship. It struggled, its engines firing at full capacity, but the light wrapped around it like vines, freezing it in place. Elara felt the ship's systems, its very core, through the Lotus. She could shut it down entirely, end the threat for good. But something stopped her. The voice of the Lotus whispered in her mind. Mercy shapes the bridge as much as power. Elara closed her eyes, her fingers tightening around the staff she now held instinctively. She focused the Lotus's energy not to destroy, but to disable. The alien ship's engines sputtered out, its weapons systems offline, leaving it stranded and vulnerable. "This is your only warning," Elara said, her voice ringing with finality. "Leave. Now." The alien vessel lingered, a moment of tense silence passing between them. Then, slowly, it began to retreat, disappearing back into the void from which it had come. The Aetherion drifted closer to the Lotus, its system stabilizing within the artifact's protective field. Elara returned to the command deck in a flash of golden light, startling her crew. They stared at her, wide-eyed, as she stepped forward, her presence now radiating an almost divine authority. "Elara?" Kale asked cautiously, standing from his console. "I'm still me," she assured him, though her glowing eyes and the faint aura surrounding her said otherwise. "But I'm also something more. The Lotus has bonded with me." Kale studied her, his skepticism fading into awe. "You stabilized the wormhole." "And more," she said, turning to the main screen. The wormhole outside was no longer a chaotic maelstrom. It now spun in perfect harmony, a bridge to the unknown that was finally safe to traverse. "What happens now?" Kale asked. Elara's gaze lingered on the glowing wormhole. "The Lotus has given us the key to unlocking the galaxy. But it comes with a responsibility. The balance must be maintained." She turned back to her crew, her voice resolute. "We'll return to the Galactic Council, share what we've learned. But this is just the beginning. The Lotus isn't just a tool, it's a guide. And I think it has more to show us." Kale nodded, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "Then let's chart the course." As the Aetherion prepared to navigate the now stable wormhole, Elara felt the Lotus's presence within her, a steady pulse of light that echoed her own heartbeat. The galaxy awaited, filled with mysteries and dangers yet to be uncovered. And she, the anchor of the Celestial Lotus, was ready to face them all.